You were doing an impression of the cat.
Yeah! Hey! How you doing? It's Jarviskjir, a mother's love. Here to you today. We have no... What?
Is that
What?
a rap?
No.
Hey, how you doing?
Just because I've been doing...
How the fuck do you rhyme Jarviskjir?
I've just been doing a lot of white boy raps recently. Doesn't mean I'm always doing them.
Out in the fields, Jarviskjir.
I'll think about it. We don't have a Gilwyn today.
Martha's cure.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna be thinking about this.
I know! Me too, and I'm annoyed about it.
Can we just... Did you just say breakfast gur?
Martha's
I said
cure.
Martha's.
Oh, okay. I
Cure.
thought you just said breakfast gur.
Yeah, but gur rhymes with skur.
Yes, it is good.
Yeah, we got no Dean.
Deal of the day.
He's at the dentist, getting his ass looked at.
He's getting drilled, just like every Wednesday night.
I guess that's the energy we're starting with today then. Last week, you... oh yeah, you had a festival episode last week. That's right. Now we just need a beach episode and... I don't know what other anime episodes I need. Hot Springs episode, which we have had in another campaign. So, you know, there's precedent. Don't say I don't pour one out for my weebs. You were
That's an interesting statement.
Can't say it. You were in Aradia during the Spring Festival. You drank, danced, earned a little money, talked a lot about your emotions and feelings. I'm not going to talk about that. That's the boring. Who cares about that part? Like, we want to hear about the action.
Viewer.
Yeah, I know.
So fucking invested.
It's great. And you didn't spend very long in Aradia, though, heading off towards Vale's home city of Thundral. On the way, you found Drow in the forests, and are now... you went into the lower city of Thundral itself to basically prove that the stuff you have from Drow is from Drow. You could have just like taken a head or something, but this is the difference between this campaign and the Sunday one, I guess. So you have a certificate of authenticity that the Drow hand crossbow that you pilfered is actually a Drow hand crossbow from a respected relic merchant and collector and identifier and all that sort of thing. And that's actually where we start off. You are in the south side district of Thundral. Well, Thundral is this has these flying islands on the city. You are still on the base level on the south side of the river, and you were just with the Win, the relic collector. You had the crossbow looked at. Gilwyn had his little trinket looked at, and the question is, what do you guys want to do next?
Oh, jeez. It's quite a lot of decision you've given us.
It really is. It really is. Yeah.
Vale.
Yep.
Wow. You're just forcing that roll upon me because I'm a guy. Wow.
We also haven't talked yet since you kissed me.
Oh.
It's been a very quiet ride.
Actually, we did. You were like, Indira was extremely cold when they were burying those drow.
Yeah, that's true.
That was before the kiss, my friend.
No, that was after.
No, you found a drow after the
I also feel like
festival.
she was cold a bit in response to Vale being a bit of an arsehole.
Well, that's often the case.
Exactly. So she was, yeah.
I think we can happily say that that's not true because when is Vale ever an arsehole? Just saying?
It's actually difficult to pinpoint a precise occasion because there's so many of them.
Wow.
It's like an ambient asshole field.
It's like losing a tree in a forest. That's what it is.
Oh, that's a good saying. I like that. Very unmermaidy.
Yeah, losing a single What the kelp?
No, yeah, there's not.
It's gone.
a
It's
kelp.
gone.
A kelp.
Okay, losing a minnow in a shoal of fish.
There we go, done.
There you go.
So really, your options are why you came into the city was to go to High Thundral, where Vale's from, with the proof the drow being like blah, blah. But your other option, I mean, there's a gazillion other options. You're in a bustling city, right? You could do anything. Another option would be to actually follow the rings on the map. They lead out of Thundral into the forests east of here. If you really don't want to confront your makers, quite literally, you could go off seeking what it was that Baron Thor is pushing you towards.
Yeah, I feel like heading in blind is a bad idea. And Vale is nothing if not wanting to die. So I do think the High Thundral route is probably the best plan.
Okay, you want to try and head out off there immediately?
There's no reason to delay.
All right.
Give me a reason.
No.
Any reason at all.
No
but
reason
also
for
it's,
them, yeah.
you know, like tear off the bandage quickly, you know. Gilwyn, however, knowing that you're probably not going to stay very long in this magnificent city, I mean, from someone who's lived in, like, the dirty city of Goldport for most of his life, you know, Thundral is a very different sort of place, is actually going to go off on his own to see the Hall of Glass, which I described before is a sort of bardic museum of music and arts. So he's going to go off and do that because he's not going to get a chance if you're going to fuck
Wants
up.
our first time in High Thundral to be just us. Just saying, guys. Looking at you two.
So, to get around a city where the islands are flying, the go-to is by chariot. Chariot hauled by Pegasi or griffins. Usually you pay a few coin to go where you want to go. Pretty much, you know, a taxi carriage service. Surveyor, you want to just go find a ride?
This is where the Pegasi live. Get you on!
Yeah. You head over. There's basically areas where there's always going to be chariots coming and going, large markets, things like that. The magic, the slight amount of magic in the chariots themselves that keep them, you know, stable while they're being pulled around by the Pegasi is very minor, but it makes for a fairly comfy ride. You'd go to one of these street areas where Pegasi are likely to land with their chariots, and you would go about up to them asking to go to High Thundral. The driver, of course a high elf, would kind of turn like back around from the front and be like, "It is illegal to travel into High Thundral." "Oh, my liege, I would happily take you to High Thundral at a discounted price, in fact."
How much?
10 gold pieces. It would usually be 20 for most others to fly that high.
Fine. 10 gold pieces.
You you pay that, and then Indira and Serena get onto the chariot. You see this guy, and they have been fairly secretive, staying in the cart and staying out of sight. You see the copperish, yellowish flesh of the high elf pale when seeing these two dark-skinned women getting into his cart, and he looks at Vale quite wide-eyed, clearly trying to, because it's clear you're with them, and vice versa, and you can see him processing that in his head for a bit before just turning around, a little shaky even, like, "Yes, to High Thundral then, to the temples," and starting to take off. Like I said, it's a remarkably comfy ride. It feels really no different to being in the carriage all this time, other than it's a chariot. It's open air.
Is it magic? Like, does the carriage go behind
Yeah.
the Pegasi?
Yeah.
So we can presume it's magic.
I was kind of trying to explain that before, but I fucking butchered it. Yeah, there's enough like
I
magic
just
in the
wanted to
wood
confirm.
that you are. Yeah, for sure.
Because I was split between the idea that this carriage is like a little carriage without wheels that the Pegasi are above. Which I
There
quite
absolutely
like.
would be people using hot air balloons as well to get around.
No pooping, no pooping, no pooping.
This is the conventional way. You get the unlike traveling by carriage, you get the sort of thrilling experience of the whistling winds past your face as you're heading up through the city. Looking down.
Just flavor. Indira would like elbow Vale and like run a finger along the chariot when the dude was looking at her all scared and just like whisper nonsense.
While they're actually flying through the air, Serena is definitely going to would definitely say, "Well, I suppose this is reasonably impressive. It is nothing on my own spell, though."
The person who can fly. That's
Yeah.
funny. Thundrol looked very impressive from ground level, you know. But as you start to fly higher, it's clear that the ground level of Thundrol is just the lowest tier in the rung. The area you're leaving, the south side, is the newest part of the city, which has its own interesting things, like a lot more humans and other travelers and a lot of trade. The first area you pass as you're just progressively going through layers of height in the city and the different sort of cultures of them. The first area you go through is called the cottages. It's essentially the suburbs. It's multiple larger islands that have cottages, larger houses. Most people have gardens on there. There's quite often you still see defensive towers. It's hard to forget that Thundrol is a city built on defense. You know, there's still towers and castles about, but there's a little less in this sort of area. You go a little bit higher, you go to the Sky City. This is the richest, busiest place. You go from comfortable elven cottages to taller hotels and taverns and taller towers with this beautiful architecture, usually several on small islands that kind of dot all around. Some of them actually do have bridges between them, but most of the time it's chariots. And when you actually are getting up to that sort of area, it's actually quite busy with traffic, funnily enough. But above that, where the traffic kind of peters out, is High Thundrol. You'd know both the Sky City and High Thundrol very well, obviously. The Sky City would be where you would run off to, particularly a tavern, the highest tavern in the Sky City, called the Silver Lining, which you can see is just as busy as ever. It is proudly quite high up there, with it's got its own island with pools and gardens and a place for races and things like that. You also see something that I think Indira and Serena would be interested in, what is quite clearly a stadium off to one side. And as you fly above it, you see it's got spaces for races and jousting and battles and things like that. But you fly above all of those things. You fly above the busy, dense parts of the Sky City, up into High Thundrol, where you no longer see chariots flying around, but knights riding their Pegasi. Nowhere else do you see people riding the Pegasi, as Vale most likely is about to explain to you in a pretentious way. Pegasi do not like to be ridden. They are more intelligent than your average horse, and it takes a very strong bond that takes centuries to, relate to a Pegasi. In fact, usually you are reared from birth to a Pegasi, so that you have that bond. And Vale actually has, like Hercules. In fact, Vale actually has a Pegasi here that was meant for him, which you would know quite well because Vale's father was the stable master of these Pegasi. The area of High Thundrol is magnificent. The islands here are clearly the oldest and most magnificent. The style of construction is very different. They're temple castles with large domes in some areas, tall towers, but also a lot of grounds for some areas appear to be essentially walled off farmland and things like that. But what's quite clear is just how quiet it is. For the first few minutes of flying up here, and this ride up would take probably 2 hours, you know? It's a freaking long way to go. It's quiet. But soon, as you're traveling towards the central cathedral castle, your chariot would be flanked by 2 Sun Elven Knights riding Pegasi. Their Pegasi also have a small degree of chainmail barding, and these knights, the paladins of the Solar Guard, are exactly what you might expect of a fantasy paladin. Unlike most other paladins in Jarviskjir, they have gold and white armors, helmets, big shields. These ones would have lances, riding these brilliantly white-furred and white-feathered Pegasi. And they would come up either side, flanking your vehicle. They say nothing, but they look inside, and they see Vale, which is most likely why they say nothing. It's quite obvious that they would turn around anyone who's not meant to be up here, because it is a holy, sanctified place, but there is no escaping the feel of their eyes on the 2 of you, particularly Indira. Eventually your chariot lands on what is essentially a sky dock, right beside the main palace. The chariot driver will actually step off with you and help you off, as if, you know, opening the doors and things like that, and bowing quite deliberately. And now that you're here on ground level, you can see just how empty this area is. There's courtyards which are clearly designed for many people to be sitting and talking and planning and rearing their Pegasi. And there's actually quite a lot of Pegasi flying around without owners, or without being ridden or anything like that. It's quiet, but not infinitely quiet. Before you, beyond the courtyard, is the palace's main doors, where you can see 4 guards standing in this armor. The knights who flanked you will land nearby and kind of, again, no words, just watching. A very elven judgment placed upon a lot of you. Vale, you know where you'd want to go inside the palace if you were to, you know, you just want to gather the attention of probably the people in charge, right? The Lord Protector.
Probably.
As all of you are, you know, brothers in arms, this is a culture where, like, going to the person in charge is not frowned upon, you know?
I think, obviously that would be the plan, but I don't think Vale would move to enact it.
Yes.
Instead, he would, like, get off, take a couple steps, and then just stand there staring at the gates, flanked with the guards.
Indira would, like, be looking at him, and then back at the castle, and then back at him, and then say, "So, should I wait here?"
It's up to you, I suppose.
Do you want me to come with you?
I don't know whether I want to go in myself. Unfortunately, there is no turning back at this point.
Then she would slide an arm around his to, like, kind of give him encouragement and squeeze his upper arm and be like, "No time like the present, Vale."
Yes, I cannot say I mind all the eyes on me. It is rather riveting in its own way, but we should probably move sooner rather than later.
The thunder give me strength. Very well. He would... it's not like a rough motion, but he separates himself from Adira Indira and strides forward.
She would follow like a couple paces behind.
As you do, you walk across the courtyard, which feels smaller than when you last were here, Vale, because you've grown. But also larger in the emotional weight of every step you take, closer and closer and closer and closer. Something that Indira and Serena wouldn't like. It feels just like being on ground. You don't. There's no wobbling, shaking. The only difference is the air is thinner, which would not really trouble the two of you that much. As you step up closer, the Solar Guard will open the gates. But it's quite clear they have their weapons drawn. It's not even in, like, parade fashion. Vale would know, but there's a difference between just being the stoic guardians to being... There's a genuine chance that this is a threat. But again, they don't act on it. They just open the gates into the large, open hallways of the palace and watch you. Every single one of their eyes on you keenly. The elves who are under this armor are old. Usually around 400 years. Definitely all adults. One of them actually isn't even a sun elf. One of them is a high elf. Not all of the Solar Guard are sun elves. It's just, the sun elves society, You march in further and would aim to go off to find the Lord Protector. Going through these grand halls. They are designed to be a spectacle, not just to people entering, but to the gods. There are multiple stained glass windows that show battles of knights in the very same armor. It seems for thousands of years the designing of the armor has not changed, taking on giants, taking on a beholder. All of these battles illuminated and permanently made in stained glass. Serena, the actual light that shines through the stained glass kind of hurts to you. You are aware that this place being a holy place to the sun, and unlike maybe Goldport people where, sure, they worship the sun, this is very palpable, and is the antithesis of you. Yeah. So it's painful.
Serena was enjoying all the eyes on her for a little bit, and then she first feels that and just sort of winces, and her grin disappears.
Yeah. But again, the actual halls are mostly empty. This palace, High Thundral, is a area fit for thousands of people and has a population of only a few hundred. You pass rooms which would be schools, that would be, eating halls, all empty. Empty, but not empty in a left to rot kind of way. Everything is still remarkable and clean. You go up the main core of the palace, up a large spiral staircase that goes through several main rooms. Actually, the main meeting halls are in this big sort of dome in the middle of the palace. You pass more guards who will step aside. Only one of them will ever sort of say anything, or one of them will say in Elvish, deliberately loud enough for you to hear, but a whisper. It's like, he's got a lot of nerve to come back here. But everyone else is just stoic and silent, as Sun Elves are to be.
I think Indira would glare at that guy.
They straight up, grip at their sword even tighter, and, make a motion to move, that one of the other knights will, grab their shoulder and pull them back slightly.
I have no idea what they said, so...
Coming up to the Lord Protector's chamber, it could be mistaken for a throne room. The Sun Elves are not the kings of Thundral, the country of Thundral. That is not their place. He is the Lord Protector, the protector of the realm as a whole. At least that's how you see it. In the center of this grand chamber is it's not a throne room, but it's certainly a throne. Showy gold. It has the sort of the symbols of the sun gods, which are usually, this sort of blazing sun and such, with a sunroof right above that kind of actually displays that holy symbol back down in stained glass into the chamber. This room is being lit up with beautiful oranges and reds. And sitting on the throne is the Lord Protector, Balord Rulius, an old elf. Rumors, when you were younger, and he is over 1,000 years old. And he definitely looks like it. Elves age gracefully. Most of the aging is in stark lines that run down his face. The gold skin having a little less luster than Vale in his youth. His hair is a silver and runs down straight and pure like rivers down over his armor, which is much more ceremonial than it is practical. But there's a aggressiveness about this Sun Elf armor. There's spikes and barbs on some areas, where in other areas, similar to the art of Vale, is just very, very intricate engraving work of holy symbols and signs and things like that. Let me just check something. No, that's someone else. Sitting before him, like his sword and shield are resting beside the throne on either side, but kind of floating just above one of the arms is a floating orb, kind of like a giant pearl with an engraving of embossing of gold around it in looping, swirling patterns. You approach. Would you immediately say anything?
I don't think so. I don't think Dale's got the balls.
There's that pause, and he doesn't say anything either. His eyes are a little cloudy. It's actually one of the paladins will actually step up behind you, kind of past you, and will say, Lord Protector, this is Erivail Valanair. He's returned to us after a long time of departure. Obviously, this is all in Elvish. It's very old Elvish as well. The kind of thing in Dira that you would lose the occasional words. You definitely get enough to understand it, but it's an archaic dialect. It'd be like as if they were speaking these and thous and some such.
I have come back for one reason. I'm not here to seek forgiveness, but I was directed to return by Berenthor himself.
There's like a little raising of voices, because you now notice that a lot of the knights have followed you into this chamber, and because it's kind of a spherical chamber, they kind of flank the outside, standing almost like statues. But there's a lot of people who say, that's ridiculous. It's like he's lying and such things. And straight up, one of them will call out. It's like, you bring a usurper into this holy room, and then you claim to speak such lies. He should be executed for this, let alone executed for leaving.
That attitude right there is exactly why Berenthor came to me, and not to you. You think this is a usurper? He unbuckles the crossbow and chucks it on the floor. I have fought and killed usurpers in the realm of Thundrol. You have grown lazy and blind to the threat which I have now been shown. The question is whether you will follow your faith or your prejudice.
At this point, the Lord Protector, Balord Rulius, stands. A very simple gesture that clearly shows, just from the body language of everyone else kind of freezing back up, there's a lot of things unspoken. And he will step closer. Someone else will actually pick up the hand crossbow and kind of show it to him. which he only glances at, really. You left us, is that correct? But return on the words of Berenthor.
That is correct.
Can you roll me an insight roll, please? Actually, all of you can.
Is this all going on in Elvish or
Yep.
all of it? Okay.
I would be
Whisper
relaying
translating.
to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, as best I
Okay.
could.
This is a bad idea. He's fading. Oh dear.
He doesn't know who you are. He doesn't know who you are at all. Berenthor has not made himself shown to us since the slaying of Cramon, the giver of gifts.
He's over 1,000 years old. Was he there for this?
Ooh. Let me check my timeline. I don't think so. I think that was much longer than that. No, he wouldn't have been around for that.
Rip.
But it's something you would be taught much about, because that was the last great battle, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That was the last one. And even then, really, it wasn't that great of a battle. They didn't know you were coming. The defending force was hobgoblins and goblinoids. And admittedly, Cramon the Giver of Gifts was a beholder. It was the beholder shown in the stained glass. An incredibly powerful creature that can manipulate reality. But a whole army just swarmed into the place, flying into the towers and destroying it.
I don't have anything to say if he wasn't there. Not at this point.
It is true that we, as a people, look to a new battle, and it has been told in whispers, rumors of usurpers daring to come to the surface. We had dismissed these rumors as nothing but madness, scouting parties, if there was any credit to such a thing. But if this is true, and if this is the act of usurpers, the greatest enemy Elvenkind has known since the giants that enslaved our race so long ago. And he just sort of trails off, and there's actually several minutes before anyone really realizes he's trailed off. The knight who picked up the hand crossbow, a woman looking over the device, actually takes off their helmet and looks at it. All of the elves here, they're all adults. You know, Vale is the youngest, and none of them are even close to his age, or several centuries above. My lord, this does seem to give some credence to what we have been told.
We had it assessed. We have here a writ which claims of its authenticity. He would proffer the paper.
Yeah, and she would take it. Ballard would just kind of walk around the room very slowly. Perhaps the king's favorite son was correct. Berenthor came to you yourself. Berenthor means
correct.
for you to see this threat. There is a man once loyal to the throne, who turned away, but attempts to garner our attention. We deemed it not important, but perhaps it is. And he again, pause. It's long. This is a very long conversation in Elvish. Even ignoring the fact this is a longer, slower kind of celestial Elvish. The Knight of the Sword, Lathador Casterian. He knows where this man is, who claims that the usurper elves are coming to the surface. You, son of Berenthor, should travel and see him. You should. That was what we will do next. We will not charge into the kingdom of the dark, the kingdom of the usurper queen, on rumors, on a piece of machinery. But I will say it now. He sits back down very heavily. I believe this boy. I believe this boy. There will be no more cursing out of his name in my halls. Does kind of look around the room. Again, a quiet muttering.
Thank you, Lord Protector.
Indira would like tug on your shirt and be like, "Set him straight about me."
Yep. The usurpers that we met, although they bear a similar resemblance to this one here, it is easy to be mistaken between them and this one. As you all should know, upon closer look, the usurpers do not possess eyes made of gems, skin resembling rock, admittedly very smooth and perfect rock, and
I hope that bit was in like common, like.
Nor do they possess these protrusions.
Yes, she is not a usurper. She is Arvorai. And as our ancestors thought them angels, perhaps she is an angel on your path. Or perhaps I am just a foolish old man.
Berenthor bade that I come here with them. He said this explicitly.
He looks at you, and he sat back down. He's across the room. But there's for the first time you see like a proper keenness in his eyes and looking at you, like looking into your very soul, and just merely nods.
Bale's gonna take a couple steps towards the throne. I will go to Fancharas and I will visit this prince. But you must wrap us for war. We must be ready to face this threat. Take up arms like we once did. Now is the time to show Jarviskjir what we are. You do not need this ceremonial armor anymore. Take a firm grasp of what we are. Do not let it slip out of reach. It is there. As the sun banishes the shadows, so will we banish the usurpers from the surface. He gets like progressively closer and closer as he's saying this.
Can you give me a persuasion roll with advantage?
Oh, God. Oh, no!
He nods. You decipher the threat. Then we will talk of war. Begone! You have purpose. You all do. And you actually see several of the knights leaving off to other chambers. Not all of them. I mean, clearly this is a room to be guarded. But many of them sort of move away. And I would say shuffle away, but they're still elves. There's a grace and quiet. It's like a pack of cats leaving, even though they're in all heavy armor. looking back.
image of
curiously.
them,
It's like a pack of Kikas leaving.
Like,
Yeah.
them all walking off and like rubbing themselves on walls as they go. Just like
By the way,
Gotta-
the way you just said "yeah" was the "yeah" from Crazy Taxi. Just so you know, it was exactly that "yeah."
The room grows much more quiet, and Ballord lays back further in the chair, postulating, thinking. You can see his eyes, behind his eyes, the gears turning. His hand kind of rests on the floating pearl and says, "You speak to the Knight of the Sword before you go. If this is true, you are not armed enough."
thank you, my lord. Vale will walk out of the room.
Dira will skitter off behind him.
Once
Probably
he's like,
struggling to keep up a little bit, I bet.
once he's out, Vale like
Fast and
rests
sword.
himself on like a wall, looks up at a stained glass window. Oh, well, that went very well.
Yeah, you did great in there.
Well, maybe we should visit the Master of the Sword and make haste to Fansharas. I've heard several rumors about this prince, and he seems practical, if nothing else. Perhaps he will be able to assist us.
Forgive me for maybe speaking out of turn, but I don't think that you convinced them to prepare for what lies ahead.
No?
Maybe this Master of Sword will be easier to convince and can speak on your behalf.
The others will not act without the Lord Protector's blessing. Not now. Perhaps in ages past we were more autonomous. As you have seen, a great many of my brothers and sisters gathered in the hall. We haven't seen an excitement like this in some time, I suspect.
Right, Vale. I'm saying we need to convince somebody to convince him, since unfortunately it seems we failed to convince him.
I will not go behind his back in this one. The others heard my words, and they can make up their own minds.
Okay.
I presume I would know where the
yes. The Knight of the Sword is in one of the flying keeps. Hythundral is a flying city because it is a mobile city. It has just been in place for millennia. It just has not moved for millennia. But many of the buildings are designed to be more mobile and scouting, and the Keep Revere is one of them. The last one that is being maintained properly. It takes very powerful magic to keep all these islands flying, and then even more to make that be more mobile. So this is the last, scouting keep. And it is connected to this island almost in sort of like an air dock kind of thing, so it can be removed. As you walk across the sort of courtyards towards it, you actually notice some knights outside in little groups, sharpening their blades, talking with their helmets off in quiet chatters to themselves. You head into the Keep Revere, which is this tall, cylindrical tower with all this detailed engravings and showiness, all in this very gold stone that kind of sheens like a sun elf skin. Clearly meant to be, if you're seeing this, you are seeing the sun elves, when you step in, some of the night, like one of the knights kind of does look at a lot of you, one of the other ones kind of whispers very quietly in Elvish what happened in another chamber, because not everyone went there, you know, and will let you into the sort of war room of this keep. A grand, there's a globe in the center of the room. It's an extravagant room, but not filled with artistry as other things are. And inside you find the Knight of the Sword, the Lathador Casterian. Old, but not as old as the Lord Protector. His armor notably has the two faces of the sun god on each shoulder. And he is a stern-looking man. His hair is kept in a high ponytail with a kind of sun hair clasp, very extravagant. It's actually something you've noticed, that almost all the warriors have very long hair, which is something you wouldn't see in a lot of other cultures, because it's actually just like a bad thing. But it's their way. And he's actually... There's sort of many balconies, right? And he's kind of standing in the doorway to one of them with a songbird on his wrist. Kind of nodding very quietly and sends it away, turning around basically as you make it up the last steps. And he looks over you. You have returned to Hythundral, now with a purpose.
Yes, Master. The Lord Protector bade me come here.
If it is true that the usurper elves are a real and definite threat, then Revere being in full operation is the foremost priority. And I will tell you that it is not unexpected. He will press a hand on the globe, it kind of glows, and then all the glowing like expands outwards to project onto the walls the map. And he'll twist it so like the Elven lands is above, and he kind of looks at it. It is no secret that the Usurper Queen wants to destroy all life on the surface. It is no secret that she is a very real and present threat. She is not just a story made to scare children. We are wiser than that, we know that. And if there is anyone who can enter a world of sin and evil and murder a goddess, then it is the full might of the Solar God.
I assure you, Master, it is true. I have met and fought these usurpers. I once believed, as many here do, that usurpers do not exist. Merely a legend, perhaps an extinct race, nothing more. I can tell you, their crossbows hurt, their blades are swift, and they know magic. They are not a fool, not a foolish enemy.
Magic users poses a threat. But if there is one thing that we have been told about the usurpers in every legend, it is that they fear the light. And that is something we have on our side. And he will very quickly throw something at you. It's like a very swift moment for how slow the Sun Elves kind of move. It's just like, you catch it, obviously. I'm not gonna make you roll for that one. You just fucking fumble.
I'd be down.
And it is a kind of light greenish crystal. Not cut like a gem. It's kind of like a natural, awkward shape. You can kind of fit it in one palm of your hand. But over it is that light gold embossing that is prevalent on many features here. He goes on to say that this is a weapon designed against usurpers. Using the light of the sun against them. It is a true A true battle. A true purpose. To slay evil creatures of shadow, to slay their shadowy queen. It is correct.
How does it work?
I will give you an item to look up, and it should be on Roll20.
That's very amusing, by the way, because like there's like an elvish pause. So it's like he says that, and Bill's like nodding along, like yeah, and then there's like 2 minutes of silence, and he's like, oh, it's not. He's not telling. Oh,
yeah.
What is it?
It has 3 command words in Elvish because it is a gem of brightness.
Gem of brightness. Gotcha. Drag and drop, baby.
He says all this and then looks at the map. You and your companions are a perfect scouting force to go to Fan Shiraz. Talk with the princeling Aaron Alis, who has been talking of Drow. His words were not to be trusted at first, for he wanted to coup against the king below in Thundral. But perhaps he is not a rogue and charlatan. Perhaps he speaks true. Perhaps you will be the ones who decide this. I would send Revere, but it would fly too slow. You travel, and he kind of looks at you. Your Pegasi is still here in the stables.
I had hoped not to return to the stables.
It would be only your own disadvantage to not take a Pegasus. Pegasus are as much Sun Elf as we are.
I can go for you, Vale. I will go.
You might get bitten by a Pegasus.
That is assuming that they even let you anywhere near it on your own, Indira, as much as...
He looks at Indira, and then Serena, actually, for a long time. When he looks at Serena, you do see a slight, a sharpness in his eyes, Like, he kind of he clearly understands that the two of you are something different anyway. But in his blue eyes, he looks and kind of looks to Indira and says, "You will not be trusted by anyone in this country looking like this. Take some armor. It'll be give the people pause to doubt so that you will not be taking arrows to your head before you even approach walls."
Aye. She just kind of looks down. She's clearly upset.
How is I presume the stable master is well? The Pegasi, they continue to grow and need training. He still has much to do.
Very busy, the busiest of all of us, while everything else grinds to a halt. Pegasi are wild beasts, even if they are the kings of all beasts.
Good. I'm pleased to hear it. Have either of you been fitted for armor before?
Indira indicates her shell armor and just looks at you and looks down.
Oh, that's custom? Right. Yeah, sure.
I found that actually, but I do not wear armor. It does not agree with my abilities.
Well, perhaps a branding then. I kid. I will leave you to decide your own travels across the kingdom, and he will actually walk out over to one of the balconies.
He is still as scary as when I was a child.
Terrified, personally.
Anyway, you should get an upgrade, Indira.
Indira just starts taking off clothes. Just like, okay.
He turns his back instead. He's like,
She will always keep her rags on. You're not
Yeah,
seeing more of her
she's
than
still
you
got
ever
her-
have seen.
Underoos on.
not many outsiders are given the honor of wearing solar guard maid outfits.
And honored I am. I'm just trying to get through this, Vale.
So, right, yep. So, yeah, carry on. Just strip in the middle of. Yep, that's that is how I expect.
Are you gonna measure me or
Me?
I don't know how it's done.
Here, I mean, I cannot help with the armor fitting itself, but I can help with the measurements.
You have an armory. There is an armory. A palace armory, obviously. An armorer, even. And an armor.
Wait, we don't do this here?
Perhaps we should head to the armory.
All right, Indira puts her clothes back on, I guess.
Is that how all this
Totally
works?
thought we did it here.
You're in a map room.
Oh, okay.
I like that. It's canon. Well, it's a perfect place to take a little break before you go and get fitted to armor and find your Pegasi and all that jazz. So we'll be back in a couple of mins so that Doxy can get some bean juice.
I need it.
Gimme beans.